Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Relax, I Got This. I'm Robin McCoy, a Texas realtor here with Keller Williams. And if you've ever done a real estate transaction in Texas and probably many other states, you've seen this thing that's called title insurance. Well, what the heck is title insurance? Why do I have to have it? And why do I have to pay for it? And should the buyer or the seller pay for it? Well, all very confusing, and I have all the answers for you. In this episode, Mandy Moss of Republic Title, an expert in the title business, is going to explain just why you need title insurance.
A real estate transaction is potentially the largest investment we make in our lives. Whether you're buying and selling your personal home or investing in real estate, you need the knowledge to make the right decisions. Get ready. Robin is a Texas realtor and has the experience to give you the information you need to make the right decisions. Welcome to Relax, I Got This with your host, Robin McCoy.
Hi, everybody. It's Robin McCoy with another episode of Relax, I Got This. You know, as a Texas realtor, I am in the unique position to be able to learn and know so many different people in this industry that have everything to do with real estate. And today I'm really excited because we have a 22-year veteran in the title business, and that is Mandy Moss with Republic Title. Hey, Mandy.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. You know, Mandy and I have been working together for a very long time. Let's not try and age ourselves. Let's just say it's been a minute.
It has been a minute.
So what we're going to talk about today. So Mandy has, like I said, she's been in the title business for over 22 years, and she is starting her 9th year as a full-time escrow officer. And we're going to talk about what all that means to you, the home buyer and seller, and what all that means here in a minute. And she is with Republic Title, which is one of the largest title companies, I believe, here in the state of Texas. So, you know, Mandy's kind of a big deal.
Right. I don't know about that, but
So Mandy, tell us a little bit. We're going to get into kind of what we're going to talk about is what is title insurance? Why, what is this little line on every contract, and why do I have to have it? And why does it cost what it does? And what if I don't have it? And all those things. So, you know, why don't we just kind of start there? What is title insurance?
So title insurance is an insurance policy. So it is a one-time cost that you pay at closing when you purchase the property, and it lasts on the property until you sell the property, or until you don't have interest in the property any longer.
Okay. And what is it insuring? I mean, what does it cover?
It ensures that you have free and clear title. So meaning that there are no judgments, any back taxes, that no one else can claim the property. So let's say you purchase the property, someone comes and knocks on your door, you know, a month in and says they have claim to the property, that they were an owner, they didn't sell, then that's something that you would contact the title company to file a claim.
Okay, so let's just I bought a house, I got a title policy, right? So I got one, because you have to have one in the state of Texas. Am I right? That's required, yes?
It's not required, but
it's not. Okay.
I mean, you don't have to have title insurance to purchase a property. Now, obviously, we're in the insurance industry, so
Sure.
And we think it's important to have a title policy. But I mean, there are very rare circumstances where someone will sign an objection form. I wouldn't suggest it, and I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very small cost, and it ensures that you have access to the property, you can occupy the property. I mean, and they're free and clear of any taxes, anything like that.
Sure. So because, I mean, you and I have had some cases where there have been estranged relatives that we had to find. We've had people where maybe someone unfortunately is incarcerated, and so we've got to identify that. And we've had I don't know, you and I have had a number of different things. So
Mhm.
if I buy a property and I don't have title insurance because I don't think I need it, so I'm going to object to it and I'm not going to pay for it, and I'm,
Mhm.
we're not going to do that. And I've lived in my house for a couple of years, and now this guy knocks on the door and says, "Oh, I have rights to this house because it was my father's or
Mhm.
grandfather's, and I never gave a right to sell." So does that insurance policy protect me in any way from, or would it,
Mhm.
since I didn't have it, would it protect me from that?
No. You wouldn't be able to contact us as the title company to file a claim if you chose not to purchase it.
So if I did have a title policy with Republic Title in this situation, then I
Mhm.
could call and say, Mandy, there's this
Mhm.
guy on my porch and says he owns this house
Right.
or has interest in the house, I should say.
Mhm. Right. So, I
And
mean,
then
I
what
had one
happens?
not too long ago, or it was a few years ago, where it was an heir. She said she was an heir and she didn't sign out of the property. So so she still had interest. I mean, I sent it over to our claims department, and I already gave her the information to contact our claims department. I'm not exactly sure whatever happened,
Yeah,
but
after
that's
that.
something that
So
they
if
would
it were,
handle.
so if you do have this title insurance, right?
Mhm.
And an heir just like that, because I'm sure it happens more
Mhm.
often than we think,
Right.
shows up and says, I have an interest in this property. And
Mhm.
if it turns out that they in fact do, then that's
Mhm.
when that insurance policy kicks in and
Right.
covers me, the new owner, correct?
Correct. Yes, and it's covered up to the sales price. It's
Okay.
any claims up to the sales price.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't even know, maybe going down a bunny trail here. So, so now this heir has an interest. I've got a
Mhm.
title policy, but she doesn't want the house. I
Mhm.
mean, or maybe she does. Does it then pay out to her the value of the house and I get to keep it? Is that how some of these might work out?
It could possibly. I mean, it would be something our attorneys
Yeah, sure.
would would have to work out,
Yeah.
but
'Cause- So, in other words, get a title policy from a reputable title company so you know this heir
right.
has been tracked down and she's signed off.
Right. I mean, yeah, and our biggest claim is taxes. So,
Okay.
that's so any exemptions, removal of exemptions, any back HOA dues. So there's a lot of things that, we're ensuring that so if let's say the buyer purchases the property, seller removes exemptions after the fact, we have a lot of time, they'll call us and be like, I got this tax bill. And it depends on if we've insured that year's taxes or not. I mean, there's all
Right.
kinds of different situations, but I mean, there have been times where we had to go ahead and pay that and try to go back to the seller for the money, or I mean, just kind of different situations.
Yeah. I mean, we think about it when we're buying a house and,
Hmm.
and the seller went through this whole thing too when they bought the house.
Right.
So, it can, there's a lot of things that go into it. And if a property is not brand new, so a property,
Hmm.
especially in Dallas, we've got a lot of really older homes
Right.
built in the 20s and before that in Dallas. And so there's a long history with those.
Hmm.
And if you don't have, good research behind it to make sure that
Hmm.
everybody paid their property taxes or that there's no mechanics liens, right? Somebody went and put
Hmm.
that addition on that house, but then they never got paid and they put a lien on this.
Right.
You want to make sure nobody can come after you as a new homeowner that has nothing to do with it.
Right.
Right. And so that's where this insurance policy comes in, that you guys
Hmm.
have done that due diligence
Right.
so that I have the comfort of knowing that that's not going to happen.
Right. Very true. Yes.
Because not everybody is a good upstanding citizen, I hate to say.
Uh-huh.
And well, and
I
then I guess,
wouldn't I wouldn't trust a family member. I mean, I just,
yeah.
you
Isn't that
can,
sad?
a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, it's my dad or it's my neighbor or not my neighbor, like a family member. They're just going to deed the property to me." I'm like, that's your choice, but you can still, not even in a transaction, we sell title insurance. So you can always, if they're going to deed it to, you can always get a title policy that way. Where we would insure, we have to have some type of value to be able to insure. So we would do the title search, and then we typically, unless they had an appraisal, we would typically insure on what the market value is, like what the tax value is.
Okay. So that's good to know. So if, like you said, my aunt is going to deed this property to me, and, and of course, and even if it's not even intentional, she may not know some of the history or what somebody, and it all depends on how they came into possession of that property, right? Is this the year that you're going to stop paying rent? Is this the year that you are going to finally purchase your own home? But where do you start? How do you get your questions answered? Well, I'm Robin McCoy, and I'm a Texas realtor with Keller Williams. Relax, I got this. I have a home buyers masterclass the first Saturday of every month, and it's free to you, and it's all online. Just text the word masterclass to 214-226-3770, and we'll get you registered and on the path to home ownership.
And a lot of times, especially in Dallas, these properties have been in the family for, 50 years.
Centuries.
And every family member thinks they own it, and then they're trying to sell it. So, we have to we try to do as much research, but we usually go back to the last title policy issued. There may have never been a title policy issued since the beginning. You know? So we have to go back and we have to figure out, okay, well, they deeded it to this family member. Was that correct? And
so it can be a big puzzle. You think about one of these houses in Oak Cliff, just as an example.
Oak Cliff is a big one.
Yeah, that, these people owned it. They died and their kids moved in, and then their kids moved in, and then their kids moved in. And so it's never changed hands necessarily. It's just the occupants have changed. They've all been in the family.
Right.
So there's, any number of things. And now you want to sell it because values are really good in Oak Cliff right now.
Right.
So you want to sell it and make your, $500,000 and go on down the road. But now you don't have we've got to get clear title, make sure everything is in order because this buyer is going to want that. Now, what other things do you guys do as a title company to help ensure the transaction, kind of bulletproof that transaction? What kind of other things does a title company do?
We're also the escrow. We're a title agent and an escrow agent. So once we get the earnest money and a contract, we deposit it into a non-interest bearing account. We hold the funds and then we basically facilitate the entire transaction. We're the neutral party, intermediary, neutral party to the transaction. So we work with the buyers, the sellers, lenders, if there's a lender involved, to get the closing get everything to closing table.
Right. So as a realtor, I rely on you guys a lot to make sure, all clear title. You've done that. You guys assist with getting surveys. If that's part of the contract. You help us read surveys. You get, because you look at them all the time. A plat versus a survey. And what does that mean? And what does that mean to a buyer and a seller and all these different things? You work with the lenders to make sure all the documents come in.
Correct.
And they're right and they're correct. I'm just thinking about all the levels that you guys really help us as agents, whether on the buy side or the sell side, facilitate this transaction.
Right. And most everything has a timeline. So, and if the seller is to provide the commitment for title insurance, it's typically within 20 days. We do that on behalf of the seller to deliver that. Surveys. We try to make sure, we have the existing survey, it's delivered on time. Ordering HOA documents. We as a title company order the HOA documents as a courtesy for the seller. If there is any payment due up front, the seller has to pay for that up front. I know that's different with with some title companies. So that's something that courtesy that we do, just to make sure that they get ordered as quickly as possible to get delivered per the contract. So, because there's always a way to get out of the contract. So, a review period. So,
sure. Well, and there's so many, again, any real estate transaction has so many pieces. And that is one of the things, as a realtor and an agent for my clients, I want to make sure I surround myself with the best people in the industry, because I don't know title insurance. I mean, I can explain it on a level, but I can't, I'm not a title escrow officer, vice president. I'm a real estate agent. So I always say I don't talk about what I don't do. I don't talk about loans either. I speak to the right people for the loan. I just read so we can, but what's important too, and what people, I want them to understand is when this title comes and you look at it, typically, and I know with Republic Title and some of the other top title companies, you get, until it's clear, they don't send it to you. Or if you just get it, it's probably clear. Otherwise, I get a phone call that says, Robin, we have a little problem. And I've already done this and this, but this is what's going to happen. Right. So it's a matter of reviewing that information to make sure that you understand what you're buying, I guess. I mean, just like an inspection report tells you what you're buying on the hard part of the house, the physical structure, a title report tells you the history and, what on paper, what you're buying, I guess.
Right. I mean, and if you don't look at anything on the commitment, review Schedule C. Schedule C of the commitment are all the requirements. So that's anything that we've got to clear in order to close the transaction. Schedule B is any exception. So that would be like anything on the plat, any restrictive covenants, any easements. That is something that we take, so we don't cover in the title policy. Schedule A is who's vested in title, shows the legal description, shows the proposed owner's name and the lender, if there's a lender involved. So
yeah, so some of these that come up, and I talk a lot about people having wills and all of that, because it becomes very important when we get to the title part of the transaction that people assume, because my husband and I own the house and he died, so of course it's mine. Well, yes and no. In the state of Texas, we still have to do some processes to get that out of his name and in your name. It's just not automatic. And I think some things like this show up a lot once we get to title.
Right.
That it's not fully in her name or his name.
And they usually think it is. And they think it automatically because Central Appraisal District has it just in their name. So, because they probably provided a death certificate. So Central Appraisal District will put it in their name only, but they've never actually deeded out the person's interest. That the deceased person's interest has never been deeded out of the property. So that would happen if you had a will and it was probated. We would review the probate. If everything was given to the spouse, then it would, we would only have title vested in their name. But if they don't have a will, then it gets a little bit more complicated. Some of them are easy. And it honestly just depends on if they have children. If they have children together, it's usually an easy process. It's if the person that has passed away had children before, then that gets a little bit more complicated. Then their heirs, children could be involved.
Right. So that's, so it's even again, these things that we don't even think of that show up at title, right? That we just assume, because, we always assume certain things and we don't necessarily know what we don't know. We don't know we're wrong in that unless somebody has told us. And so it's, it's things like this that the title policy, when you see that on your contract, whether, again, and that's a negotiable cost, whether the buyer or the seller pays for it. that is a negotiable cost. They can split it 50-50. One can pay it, one can, so that's clear. And then somebody wants to know, well, what is this? Why do I need it? But this is why.
Right.
This is why, to make sure that the seller does in fact have full rights to sell the property, that it is in their name, that all the legal things have happened.
Right.
Whether, so that you can legally sell it in full, and I can then have full ownership of it. So let me ask you this. How much does it cost? Does it matter? Are there better rates at other title companies?
No, there's not. So title insurance is regulated by the Texas Department of Insurance. So you're going to pay the same title policy amount at any title company that you close out.
It's a percentage of the sales price, right?
It's a percentage. It's a very special calculation.
Okay. The realtor version is
yes,
it's at the sales price.
I wish it was just like 1%, or if it was just 0.5%, but no, it's
go
very complicated.
Calculators online and figure it out.
Yep, that's what we do too.
Let the Google do it.
I can manually do it, but there's a whole formula to it.
Okay.
I have had to do that before, but so yeah, it's all regulated by the state. So by the Texas Department of Insurance. So every title company, it will be the same amount. The only thing that could differ between title companies is the escrow fee and any other fees associated to the transferring of the title.
So yeah, so now we've got clear title. The titles come in. Each party, buyer and seller, has their own closing costs, their own fees for title, escrow fees, and then there's filing the deed, and there's what else?
Just document preparation,
attorney review of all the documents to make sure everything. So there's different fees that are then going to be associated with that overall set of closing costs.
Right.
And some of those are the title fees. Whether you pay for it or not, there are going to be some fees included in there.
Be the leader you know you can be. Build your professional network and access education that takes you where you want to go. We are women of all ages and backgrounds. You deserve national recognition and opportunities to build relationships with people you want to work and grow with. Hit the ground running with the Charisma chapter of the American Business Women's Association. Meetings each month from 6 to 8:30 p.m. on the fourth Tuesday in Farmers Branch, Texas, and online. Come with us. Experience ABWA for yourself. Go to charisma.abwa.org to learn more.
So tell me, what is, because I always want to, give people good stories and bad stories. So what is one that you're aware of? I mean, we had the one where the air showed up. I mean, do you know of anything that do you have any horror stories of what happened to somebody that either didn't have title insurance or the old title company, because Republic would never do this,
right,
just failed to find something or discover something?
I mean, we've found a lot of things. We had a couple of deals earlier, or I guess we're in 2023, so last year, that there were two fraudulent sellers on two separate properties.
Oh my goodness.
I think we think it was the same person, but they were buying vacant lots. I don't know if you heard about this. It may have been in your office.
Okay. I did hear about that. It didn't affect me, so I didn't pay close attention. So now I can hear the story.
So, I mean, we almost got to the closing table.
Wow.
The real seller, I believe a friend of his or someone found out that the lot was listed for sale. So, and he called the listing agent that had it listed on online, and he said, "Oh, well, we're closing at Republic Title. We're about to close in a few days." Well, so he gave him our phone number, and the real seller called us.
Yeah.
Showed up at our office that afternoon with his ID. And come to find out, we had actually closed him when he purchased it a few years ago. So we had we had his ID on file, so we could
Okay.
confirm. The seller, I'd spoken to the fake seller. I'd spoken to
Yeah.
briefly when we started comparing the information sheets, because it was two completely different sellers. The information sheets were written the same. I had him send, I was like, okay, well, I need you to forward me your ID. He forwarded me an ID. It had the correct driver's license number. It had same birth
Wow.
date, but it was a completely different picture. And he used I don't
Wow.
know why he used an ID card versus a driver's license,
Yeah.
but we informed our underwriters. They said, in order for us to close, which obviously we knew he wouldn't, we said that you have to come into our office to close.
Yeah.
Well, and then he was like, well, I can't. I'm not there. I'm on business. I can't do,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
they just went away. But I mean,
Wow.
we could have closed. He
Wow.
was scheduled to do a mobile notary, which I'm sure would have been a fake notary. We wouldn't
Probably.
have
Yeah.
known. The ID,
Wow.
he showed it to me online. I don't know if I would have seen the real ID if I would have even recognized that it wasn't a real ID,
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
not like we scan them or anything. So we don't, we go by
Wow.
pictures.
Yeah.
He would have been his picture. So it was scary. I was like, oh gosh, we
Yeah.
almost got to the closing table on this one.
Wow. And that's,
But
so that these are the reasons. These are the
mhm,
things that this, this insurance is going to help
mhm,
take care of. They're finding, I mean, unfortunately, there's some malicious people out there, right?
right,
There's people that want to steal from us.
right,
And we see it a lot where people act like they're the seller of a property, and it
mhm,
transpires, and the seller shows up and go, "What are you talking about? This was mine."
mhm,
And then it's a whole other
right,
thing, and then try and find this person, right?
right,
The person that's got the money that for the lot that wasn't theirs
mhm,
to sell. And now they're
yeah.
gone.
I
So,
was able to find the other seller, and I contacted him, and he had about 30 properties in Dallas. That other seller did, the real seller. And I was like, you
the
need to
real
watch
seller.
out. I said, there's some fraudulent seller. They are acting as and they could be selling his properties out from under him, and he
Wow.
wouldn't even know
That's
it.
yeah. And
So,
and that is, so kind of, identity theft and taking
mhm,
your checking accounts one thing, identity theft and taking your property is another thing.
right.
So the next time, you're worried about what this title policy is, these these are
Mhm,
the things that, it's protecting you from, right? I mean,
right.
these are the things that are important. So,
Mhm.
Mandy, before we wrap up here, tell me one
Okay.
thing that maybe we didn't mention that you might want to get across, either just about the topic as an overall or Republic title in particular. Anything you want to share that maybe we didn't touch on?
I think the biggest thing, um, wire fraud. I think you
Uh,
kind of talked about, but wire
yeah.
fraud is big,
Is it
and
still? Yeah.
it is. I mean, we haven't had any like recently that I'm aware of. We haven't gotten notified about, but it's still, you've got to be careful. Like, we will always send wiring instructions secure, in a secure email. If our wiring instructions will never change. So that's what ends up happening. It's
Yeah.
these hackers, they know that money's about to be transferred, and they just watch for it, and they'll be watching the whole transaction.
Yeah.
And then when we send wiring instructions, then they'll hack in and send fraudulent ones. So it's just something that you want to make sure. And I know y'all are really good about, wire fraud is real. I mean,
Yeah.
that could be your whole down payment for your home, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, and that's what I tell
it's just
people,
scary.
that very thing. I said, you will get wiring instructions from the title company. It will come
Hmm.
in a secure email, and they never ever change. So if you ever get an email that says, "Oh, where our
Hmm.
wiring instructions changed," I said your first call is to me,
Hmm.
and then it's to Mandy. And then my
Right.
call is to Mandy to let them know that this happened. In fact, one time, and I think this happened to me because I was working away and all of a sudden everything got shut down. All my KW side got shut
Oh
down.
gosh.
And I called support and they said, yeah, somebody was sniffing around your account and we shut you down. So KW
Okay.
found something within our, our ecosystem or whatever that's called. I
Right.
was able to do something, but that is key too. You're right. Wire fraud, because many times you guys don't take cash. I'm not going to walk in with $20,000 in $10 bills and give you my down payment. I'm either going to get a cashier's check or I'm going to wire it to you.
Right.
Nor as a seller do I want, $400,000 handed to me necessarily even in a check. You might want that wired into an account. And so it's important to pay attention to what's going on. And if you have a question about anything that you get, call your agent, call your title rep. As a buyer and seller, you can call Mandy. You can call her and ask her what the heck is this? I got that. Was it from you? Those sorts of things, because they're in the business to protect you.
Right. And we always call too. And even if someone calls us to give us wiring instructions over the phone, we have to call back because the hackers they can change the phone number or change the name on the caller ID to make it look like it's them. So we try to do, our due diligence as much as possible to try to avoid any of that. So that's why we always call to confirm.
These talents and skills for good instead of evil. It sure would make a lot of things easier.
For sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today, Mandy.
Yes.
This is
Thank you for having me.
A confusing thing. And so I think you help make it just a little bit more clear, and at least people know where to go to get the answers, right?
Okay. Always feel free to call me anytime.
All right.
Or email me.
Awesome. Well, we will have all of Mandy's contact information. She is one of my go-tos all the time with my business. So thank you for being on the show. Thank you for tuning into the Relax I Got This podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us for Relax I Got This with Texas Realtor Robin McCoy. Check out all the show notes for contact information on Robin and our guests and to access your free buyer and seller guides. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a conversation. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time on Relax I Got This with Robin McCoy.